Hello and welcome back. In this section, we will discuss ration balancing for goats. This section will consist of several different parts and will break down different aspects of balancing and developing rations for our goats, both for our mature females as well as our growing kids. This first section will discuss some of the introductory aspects to ration formulation. So when we begin to formulate rations, one of the first questions we need to ask ourselves is, what feeds do I have available? And what is the nutrient quality of those feeds? If I don't have a feedstuff available to me, I can develop the best ration in the world, but it's not very practical. I need to find feedstuffs that I have regionally available, that are economically affordable, and develop rations with those feedstuffs. There's a lot of different ways to develop a ration. There's a lot of ways that we can meet the nutrient requirements of the animals. We can do that with a lot of different types of feedstuffs. And so there's a lot of flexibility here. We need to think about what we have access to and then go from there and develop a ration with that starting point in mind. So is it practical and can I do it? Is this like I mentioned, are these feeds that I can get a hold of? Are these feeds that I can purchase that are convenient for me to buy and locate and source? And is this a ration that I have the capability of feeding? Again, we can develop a TMR, a total mixed ration with silage, for example, but if you don't have a TMR mixer or the ability to feed and store some of those types of feedstuffs, then again, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so we need to utilize feedstuffs that we have the capability of feeding. Is it a pre-mixed feed, or is it a feed that you're going to custom mix or mix yourself? If you have the capabilities to mix that feed on your own, that's fantastic, and you can do that. You can buy individual components separately and then mix it yourself. But if you don't have the capability to mix that feedstuff, then again, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for you to purchase those individual feedstuffs because you're not going to be able to mix them. And so it'd be better to buy a feedstuff that's already mixed and you can feed as is, as it's purchased. So some things to keep in mind, some practical considerations to keep in mind when you think about developing these rations. And then last but not least, what are the animal's nutrient requirements? And this is going to vary, again, based on age, weight, the class, the sex of the animal, their stage of production, and the environment. What stage are they in? What stage are they going to be in the subsequent weeks and months? It's always important to plan ahead. What kind of feedstuffs do I need to source? What kind of rations do I need to develop now so that I can meet those animal nutrient requirements and be prepared for the future? In this section, I do want to note that rations are going to vary farm to farm and region by region based on the availability of feedstuffs and based on the production system. So there's going to be a lot of variation here. The goal here is to equip you with the skills and the resources to assess the feed resources that you have available, the animal nutrient requirements, and then formulate and develop rations that meet your needs and the needs of your animals. So I'm not necessarily going to say this is exactly what you need to feed for this stage of production for this animal, because I realize that where we're located here in North Carolina versus where you may be raising your animals somewhere else, our feedstuffs are going to be different. Our production systems are going to vary somewhat, and we may have to develop and tweak things a little bit different to meet our specific demands. And so hopefully here we can provide you with some tools and some resources so that you can go and do that on your own and develop the best ration for your operation and the goats that you're raising. So how do most goat producers feed their animals? How do all of us as producers feed our small ruminants? And this is kind of a philosophical question to get us thinking and kind of wrap our mind around our production system and what we might need to do from a nutrition standpoint. A lot of goat producers and small ruminant producers in general, they turn those animals out to grass, out to pasture in the springtime, may or may not provide some supplementation through that grazing period. And then in the wintertime, they may bring those animals inside, maybe put them on a round bale. Maybe they feed that round bale out in a more of a pasture type setting and overwinter them there. And again, they may or may not provide supplementation. So the goal here is to think about, what are they getting from that forage-based diet? What's being supplied in the forages that they're consuming? And do we need to provide any supplement? Is any supplement needed? So how do we know if they're getting enough nutrients? How do we know that they're getting enough energy? How do we know that they're getting enough protein from those forages, from the hay that they might be consuming? And then based on that, based on how much they're consuming from that forage source and the demand from the animal, based on their nutrient requirements, do we need to provide supplementation? And if we do need to provide supplementation, how much supplementation is needed? So these are some topics, some aspects of nutrition that we will cover here in subsequent parts.